Alright, so in today's video, we're gonna go over Baals' lore. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro. Alright, so like I said before, we're gonna go over the lore for this character. If you don't know what this video is gonna be like, you can check out my Xiao video where I went over his story. So essentially we're going to be going over the story that you're able to unlock via her friendship levels. So let's get started with that. Since the dawn of life, humanity has always borne an intense yearning for and curiosity about the world. The world of the people of Inazuma is thus. There's thunder, lightning, wind, and rain were primordial facts of life, as well as light and the sea, and the Raiden Shogun. Babes nestling in their mother's arms hear tales of the Shogun's slaying of many gods and conquering other races. When young men and women roam the island, they see the gorge split asunder by a blade of lightning and pale still standing bones of the giant snake. Soldiers take to the battlefield with "Glory to the Shogun" and her everlasting reign upon their lips. The people work in contentment and peace, knowing that the Shogun and her loyal Tri-Commission are there. The great name of the Raiden Shogun has long shaken off the shackles of mere life, becoming the eternal traditional belief of Inazuma. People trust in this great name and its might, believing that their descendants shall witness the same sights, that the same fate will form the foundations of their inner worlds, and that this will be passed on from generation to generation. This is the eternal paradise that the almighty Shogun promised her people. The true name of the Raiden Shogun is Raiden A. In her long road, she has witnessed the price that Inazuma has had to pay for progress over the hundreds and thousands of years. The happiest years of her life had passed her by, and those she once considered friends became her foes. In the end, she even lost the reason for which she had wielded her sword. Where there is progress, there must be loss. A believed that this was the ironclad rule of the world, with time as its merciless enforcer. The greatest and most prosperous nation of men collapsed overnight, and even the most ancient Liyue harbor would say farewell to its Geo-Archon. The winds of parting came whistling in from the outer edge of time. However, resounding the Shogun's name, centuries later, millennia later, someday, Inazuma would lose the protection of its deity. As a warrior, she was wary of all foes, even if that enemy was a crisis as intangible as time's passage. She had to find a countermeasure, a weapon she could use to defeat it in time. Her answer? Eternity. Only eternity could freeze all things under the sky, make Inazuma truly deathless. Then, while things are still good, let's have stillness. Let's march towards eternity. For beings with a perishable form of flesh to pursue eternity, they must first solve the unavoidable problem of lifespan. This limited time troubled A greatly, until one day when a mysterious technique came before her eyes, as if by a stroke of fate. Using such techniques, one could create intricate puppets indistinguishable from true life. In theory, this puppet could perfectly imitate everything about A. It could surpass the limits of her lifespan and defend Inazuma forever. Yet, how could creating a copy of an Archon be a simple affair? A conducted countless experiments to this effect, discarded a great many failed products, and spent an unimaginable amount of time and resources. But at last, by her dogged pursuit and warrior spirit, she was able to create a flawless puppet. The newborn Raiden Shogun sat there silently, listening to A speak all about her and even about them. The future of Inazuma was here, inscribed upon a glorious blueprint The automaton had but one question for A. There is no turning back from forsaking your form. Do you regret nothing? Your existence is my answer. Then A transferred her consciousness into her blade, and thus was born the plane of Euthymia. Before Raiden A became the shogun, she was a samurai responsible for seeing that the previous shogun's orders were carried out. The previous Electro Archon, Raiden Makoto, was no great fighter, and the things that A had charge over were mostly matters of warfare and slaughter. However, A also had moments of repose away from battle, sitting with her friends under the sakura trees and playing Karuta. Due to her character, A was always the most wooden player. She was never the final victor, nor did she ever have a taste of the prizes that the Kitsune Saigu received for the winners. Thus, she poured the effort that she put into swordsmanship into Karuta practice, often pestering Makoto or Mikoshi Chiyo to Karuta matches, or spending much time by moonlight reading the poetry inscribed on the cards out loud. At last, the day came that under the sakura trees, A would defeat opponent after opponent, only to be greeted by the sounds of her friends' laughter. Only then did she realize that she had lost her usual composure entirely, before snapping both arms back down and reverting to her usual cool facade. Of course, her friend did not intend to make sport of her. Indeed, they understood her character and the manner in which she had worked ever so hard to come out on top. As for Kitsune Saigu, oh, how amused she looked as she presented A with some pastries. I said it was a reward, yes, but it was simply some homemade cakes of mine. I didn't think you'd be so concerned about it. A, well then, enjoy the spoils of victory to your heart's content. A was hardly one to be greedy for snacks, but as a samurai, she firmly believed that what she lost must be reclaimed. These pastries were more akin to validation of her desire to win. But it was not too long before that cool demeanor of hers broke into a smile again. The cakes were lovely, just like the taste of victory. As for her clumsy attempts to hide that smile, one could only say that it was an entertaining sight all around for her friends. To this day, A still often remembers that sakura tree, even though she has not gone to see it in a long time, and even though no one sits under it anymore. She wishes that that time might stop forever. A still remembered the way in which Makoto greatly loved the scenery of Inazuma, its cuisine, and the story of its people, and how she loved telling A all about it. Though they both understood the concept of erosion well, Makoto was unlike A, who worried about the future more often. Instead, Makoto's energies were focused on the present. It is precisely because we know that this scene is but a fleeting shadow that we should enjoy it all the more. Then, A could only smile wryly, realizing that she, the Kage Musa, was even more old-fashioned than the real Raiden Shogun. She thought to herself that she must learn to be more leisurely, like Makoto. Yet the times changed all too quickly, all but catching A off guard. Before she knew it, her hands already held the blade that the dying Raiden Makoto had passed on to her. This day, the Kage Musa was now the true Raiden Shogun, and it was on this day that A truly felt the agony of erosion. As time marched forward inexorably, even this blade, this Sakura, all life on Inazuma would fade before her eyes. This was the foundation of Inazuma, and it was the thing that the Raiden Shogun must defend. If you look at it this way, thinking ahead is not meaningless, nor is it vain arrogance. Having resolved herself, her life exceeded its mortal shell, and eternity descended upon the mortal plane. One night, Raiden A entered a beautiful dreamscape while meditating. Here, there was nothing left between heaven and earth but her, and a her that was akin to looking into a mirror. The automaton's voice flowed into her ears like a sigh. The eternity you resolved to establish in your heart has been shaken by the countless wishes of your people. Thus, you have become my enemy. Back when she was creating the puppet, A had considered all the hidden risks involved. She believed that anything was possible, including the worst case scenario, in which she too would someday become a threat to eternity. But she had to press on. She had to reach eternity. This, she would not permit to be stayed by any outside force. The puppet's words were something that she had asked herself long ago. You believe that you are more firmly convinced now than you were yesterday, and that is why you are presently correct? Is that so? Do you presently have some new ideas? Or have you too fallen victim to inexorable eroded? Their faces were the same, but they spoke of different ideals. The battle with herself, with her past, would come someday. But it was not this day. A knew well that she was not yet ready. Her heart was clear, and she would have remained in that state. But hearing the cries of her people, she had to command her feet to stop. The sky above the mirror was no longer empty, and all about the silent halls, she heard the cry of crows. Dawn was coming. The samurai must take up her sword. This dream was ever so real, and it too passed like a shadow. Alright, so that was character story 1 through 5. I'm not going to go over the extra stuff as I want you guys to kind of discover that. But if you guys do want me to read this extra bits that the characters have at the end of their kind of like character bios, then maybe I could do a video where I go over that with a bunch of different other characters, because there's only 2 extra pieces for most characters, I think. But yeah, I just wanted to do the character story. So if you want me to do that, like I said before, just comment down below and tell me down below what characters you want me to do for the next video. I hope to do more of these in the future, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. With that being said, this video was kind of hard to make as I really tried to pronounce my words and not really slur. So I hope that shows in the quality. But with that being said, let's actually go over and thank the patrons over on Patreon. You could join them at patreon.com/ComicSansTheMan, or you could click the link in the description. It helps the channel, but it's not necessary. But anyways, let's get back on track. So in our gold tier we have Nippy Director, Kenny, and Dwayne Finn. And in our platinum tier we have Lyco. So if you want to join them, like I said before, link in the description. And with that being said, this is going to be the end of the video. So yeah.